Delighted to be back with the Willie Morgan show, and we've got a very, very special guest this evening. We've got Steve Norman, one of the founding members of Spandau Ballet. Steve is a massive Tottenham fan, which I'm worried is going to cause a few problems for Willie in this show, because Steve, Willie's been slagging your team and he's been slagging Mourinho for weeks.
I bet, yeah, you know, he doesn't know that I've been following him, slagging my team for weeks as well. Don't worry. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Always a pleasure to be in your company, Willie.
Wonderful to have you with me, as you well know. You know we love you.
The first thing I want to...
Likewise.
The first thing I want to touch on, Willie, it's been a sad week, of course, the passing of Nobby Stiles, the news about Sir Bobby Charlton, Bobby Ball, Sean Connery. Have you got any comments, Willie, you'd like to make on the show tonight? Because you've been very busy this week on the BBC and others, which has been great to see.
Yeah, it seems that the only time on the telly now is when somebody dies, and unfortunately, it's more common than it should be. Yeah, little Bobby, of course, went first. He was a super little guy, just, you know, from Oldham. Great guy. Him and Tommy are both lovely, lovely people. I've known him for a long, long time, obviously. And Nobby, well, as I've said many times, of all the people I ever met in football, apart from being the worst on the pitch to play against, he was the most beautiful person you could ever wish to meet in your life. He was just a lovely, happy little guy. And of course, Sean, I didn't know Sean was so ill. You know, I've known Sean for a long time, and his son Jason, we were very good friends. And so 3 of them in a week. And then, of course, the news about Bobby. Bobby, as you know, Bobby only lives up the road, and he plays at the Mere, where I play at golf. So I knew that he had something else, but I hope it's not too bad. That's all we can say. I hope it's not too bad, and it can still swing a golf club. It'd be great if it could still swing a golf club.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that, Willie. You know, I mean, first and foremost, you know, Bobby Ball, I was so fortunate not just to meet him, but to actually meet him on and off over a little period of time. And we just hit it off. You know, I understand how you hit it off knowing you know, he had little sort of stature, but what a big man he was. He cut through that room, and, you know, but he let everyone else do the groundwork. And then he would just throw in these sort of these jokes over the top and just, like, you know, leave it up to the pros. And he was a wonderful human being. I thought he was so intelligent was the first thing. You know, I could see him watching the room and, you know, various places. We actually, I think in Lytham, you know, Lytham, where he came from, you know, I like Lytham. I really like it. I've got friends there. I go to the local pub called The Taps, and I'd see him around, and, like, you know, that kept himself to himself, but always funny, always very private. Just really, I saw Cannon Handball that night, I remember, in Lytham, and I couldn't believe how groundbreaking they still were. And now near the knuckle that they were, you know, he was starting fights. Anyone walked in front, it was, "Oh, you know, it's like Johnny Rotten, you know, over 60s Johnny Rotten." Well, he's over 60 now, isn't he, Johnny Rotten?
Well,
yeah, and
you know, they were brilliant for each other. They were absolutely brilliant. Well, you met Tommy at Gainer's birthday party.
Tommy, what's Tommy going to do, for Christ's sake? I can't stop thinking about it.
Both great people. And of course, Nobby, I invited Nobby. I told his story. He didn't play, he wasn't a great golfer, because he couldn't see anyway. So he asked me.
Glasses.
He lived down the road there, and I ran into him. This is when I was Howard, and he said, "Why don't you invite me to the Howard Keel?" I said, "Well, you can't play, man. You know." And he said, "I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I've got a set of clubs." Okay. So I invited him to play in the Howard Keel. So I thought, well, I have to be careful who I put him with. So a friend of mine, Irish lad, John Gannon, who's based in Tenerife. So I put him with John and his team. I said to John, I'm going to tell you now, Nobby doesn't play a lot. And he said, oh, that's okay, because we'll have a bit of a laugh and everything. Anyway, he never scored a point. Johnson,
But I bet he had him in fits for 18 rounds.
we loved it, and he could play with us anytime. So that was Nobby.
Oh, yeah. I was lucky to see him play a lot back in the 70s. I mean, without going into this football, my history just yet, but I saw him a few times, you know, Nobby Styles and with Georgia Best. I don't know if you ever tell me if we haven't even had this conversation in sort of 70, the late 60s. Sorry, not the 70s, the 60s, because I was born in 1960. So I reckon from about 7, up till 7, I was an Arsenal supporter because I lived overlooking the ground, but I couldn't go to see any games. You know, I could only see a little bit of the ground from where, you know, like those Peabody estates, and everyone hangs their washing up at the end of the floors, and we happened to be there on the top floor. And we could see in the distance Highbury, and we could only see about a third of the pitch. So we'd be standing there waiting for the ball to come up like this. It was only like 7, and it'd come out to go, yeah, and then we go like that, and we have to wait for it to come back up again, you know. So, but from that point on, you know, my uncle took me to Spurs, and I went to the other side. But you know, I'm one of those people that have I'm one of those Tottenham supporters that have a fondness for Arsenal, which you don't get. It's very rare these days, isn't it?
Very good.
But and I went to so many games. I saw Nobby Styles playing. I'm wondering if I saw you. I didn't know you back then, of course. But White Hart Lane in the sort of 67, 68,
well,
possibly.
Playing in 67, I would still be with Burnley, and yes, I would have been.
Yeah.
Well, 68 onwards with Man United. We were obviously
Yes.
quite a bit. So.
Well, then I might have seen you there, because I might have seen you there. I can remember like
Bill Nicholson,
George, you know,
Bill Nicholson.
It would have been the same time. Bill Nicholson, exactly that. I sat there, and I remember with my uncle, and I sat in next to. This is when the players used to go out everywhere, you know. There was no sort of VIP area back then, and I sat next to me was Alan Gilzine, and next to him was Martin Peters. They were injured, and they were sitting next to me. I think it was against Stoke, because I got them to sign my program. I just can't find the program. I thought maybe you'd be able to fill me in on that one, Willie. But you know, those are my memories of that era. That's my biggest football sort of era, really. Late 60s, 70s.
It was a happy era. You know, all the players we all got on well together. There was no nastiness between any players. We were all just happy to get paid to play football.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, this isn't too far away from when you have 2 jobs and all that, you know, as if we were lower league like it is now.
Far enough, gladly far enough away, but not too far away. Alan Gilzine, good centre forward, great goal scorer. Alan.
Who was, sorry?
Alan Gilzine.
The head, wasn't it?
Your old Spurs team, Callum, I don't know if you won't remember them, you're too young. They were one of the best teams I ever saw play, the original Spurs team from 1960. And I was trying to remember the names. I was sat there, it was yesterday. I think it was Bill
Mallory.
Bowles, Henry.
Bill Folk, yeah. You're going early 60s here. Hang on a minute. I was born in 1960, not.
In the league. This is the Spurs team. I wrote his name down. Just a minute. Oh yeah,
Blanche Flower,
Baker. Then
Cliff Jones. Yep.
Henry and Baker, and then it was Blanche Flower, Norman Mackay, and the forward.
Norman Mackay.
Medwin, White, Bobby Smith, Jimmy Greaves,
Bobby Smith,
and Cliff Jones.
And Cliff Jones. Yeah.
Phenomenal team. They played most amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, I got good.
Yeah.
I remember when we beat them 7-1 at Burnley. That was a nice night. I enjoyed that night. You were too young. You weren't there then. It was back in the early 60s.
Just on,
just ever so slightly ahead of my time. Sorry, Callum.
just on Tottenham, Steve. Obviously, you've got Jose Mourinho as manager now. You won your last game against Brighton 2-1, as Willie and I know too well. You hammered Manchester United 6-1 at Old Trafford. What do you make of Jose Mourinho?
Well, I would tell you how I felt about him before I saw the documentary. I always felt that, yeah, he is the special one in that he rates himself so much. But when I saw that documentary, all those things about how arrogant I felt he was, and I mean, besides all the sort of his tactics and his defensiveness and all that, I got him all wrong. I think coming across on the All or Nothing documentary, he really does come across as really tongue in cheek, and I was really pleased to hear that. He's actually a really decent guy, and I think that was great because I didn't know how decent he was. As far as his management is concerned, well, I think that you can. In that document, you can see what they do. I love those. I hope they do those with other teams. They should definitely follow around United, Manchester United, and Arsenal now. I think are going to shake it up a little bit. Even being a Tottenham fan, but I think Mourinho is really a great manager. He's knowing a bit about sort of music production. I know when I go into a studio, for example, or I'm often called on to rally the troops, get a little bit of, here we go, boys. You get the captain, you get Loris there, and he's there, or Harry Kane. It's like, and they swear a lot. And it's like, and off they go onto the pitch. I can do that in the studio or going onto a stage. So it absolutely resonates with me how he is, but he's a decent guy, and that also resonates with me.
We've got so many questions coming in, even as we speak just now. Willie, the question that's come in so often is, what is your favourite Spandau Ballet song that Steve is on?
Oh my God! You put me on the spot. Until I met Steve, I didn't know who Spandau Ballet were. I'm an Elvis fan. All the bands from the 80s, 90s, Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran, I had no idea what they sang, what they did, what they didn't do, until I met Steve. And then I saw Steve work doing a solo gig up here. And believe me, folks, he is phenomenal. I have never heard anyone play the sax or sing like him. He's absolutely amazing. If you ever get a chance and he's doing a show in your area, go and see him. He's amazing.
You're biased, Willie. You're my pal.
I tell you what, the one thing I will do, and I do, I always tell the truth as I see it. I always tell the truth.
Thank you, man. That's thank you. I appreciate that.
And I think, and I've listened to Gold because that's the one that everybody talks about. And the other one, I think True.
Yeah.
You play the sax on, isn't it? Is it true?
Yeah. There's a sax solo on that one. Yeah. That iconic moment of the 80s summed up in what, 2 minutes? No, it's not 2 minutes. Yeah, mate. Thank you.
It would be my favorite song.
Well, I have to say, in terms
you're talking about, you're not talking about. Oh, where's the guitar? Train I ride. I mean, it's an Elvis song, isn't it? Wait, I did that for you. I did that for you. Mystery Train by Elvis. And I heard you were coming, and I thought, oh God, we got to do this. And of course, in my band, the Sleeves, we've got one of the most brilliant guitarists in Paul Cuddiford, and he's like, he can do Scotty Moore, he can do finger picking, whatever you want to do. He's a very rockabilly kind of player, And it's one of the highlights now. Since you came along, that's in every gig because me and him, we just love it, and we just pair off and off we go.
Very old.
Well, the rest of the band are playing as well, but Elvis, you can't go wrong, can you, with Elvis? The man was a genius.
So I know we diverse from football, but the King's the king.
Yeah. What can you do? Yeah.
The next question we've got in is for you, Willie. And there's a question for Willie, and there's a question for you, Steve. And there's a sort of element of the past here. Willie, is there a player from the past you would love to have shared the pitch with? And then, Steve, is there a musician from the past you'd have loved to have collaborated with? So, Willie, if you go first with the footballer.
Shared the pitch with? You mean to play against on the
to
same
play
pitch?
with, I think.
To play with? I'd have loved to play with Pele, obviously. I mean, a no-brainer. He was the greatest of the great. I played against him, as you know, but 4 times when I was in America. And he was a lovely guy. I mean, what a lovely man as well. I mean, just a nice guy. I would have loved to play with Pele. So other than that, I mean, there's lots of people I'd like to have played with. I wish we signed a few people at United after Matt retired. Might still be there, Steve, but
you'll be there.
But I said I had the privilege of playing against Pele and sharing a few drinks with him in his dressing room after the match, and it was wonderful. Great experience for me. And I think I've told the story. He gave me his shirt, and I gave it away. Oh, dummy! I gave it away. Yeah, I know.
No, not. But can I step in there, Willie? Because I sometimes feel like that, and I think, but then I think, but hang on a minute. All I would have done with it was put it under the bed, or I keep a lot of my stuff that fans give me actually in a place under the bed. It's one of those things that lift up. I've got tons of it, and it goes back donkey's years. And I'm thinking it will still be there. If I hadn't given this, that, and the other to someone else, then they're out there proud as punch, talking about that, showing it off, and talking about who gave it to them as well. So that's kind of the best bit of publicity you could ever get yourself.
No, Steve,
it might come back to you one day.
No, I was in his dressing room just with him. He had his own dressing room, and he said he took my shirt and he put a shirt on. He'd already given me the shirt he played with, so he put one. I said, "Put it on," and he gave me the shirt. And then this was New York, and then they rapped on the door and they said, "Willie, you have to come in, get changed. We've got a plane to catch." And I went back into our own dressing room. And a young American lad that was in the squad, he wasn't even in the team. He said, "Oh, that's the greatest thing in my life." And I said, "Oh, there you go."
Yeah, mate. I said, you've told me this story before, and I think that's brilliant, mate. Well done, you. That's great.
It's not.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it is. It is. Just think how much that meant to that kid.
Oh,
my goodness.
I know
it bought him a house. Just don't think of it in those terms.
Anyway, yeah, so Pele would be mine. So, Steve,
brilliant. I mean, before we go on to the music side, I want to say who I would want to play football with. I played football with Bobby Moore. We did. Yeah, I scored a goal at Wembley. I kid you not. And Gaza, we played several times. Rushy. I've done, and this is all down to sort of Spandau Ballet, really, because that opens doors, and it has done. And it, for someone who was in goal and really didn't want to get up on a Saturday morning, but passion for football, I came out later. So I came out early sort of 80s, thinking, right, I kept getting asked to do these charity matches, and so I was with Soccer 6, with Mark Abes, and ended up playing with so many people.
One question: what position did you play? Right wing.
I'm not joking. When I was younger, they used to shout out Stephen Orman on the wing. I'm not joking. It was just incredible. I was over there because I could whip it in and then maybe come inside. My left foot wasn't good at the time, but it's not so bad now, It took me a few years to work on it. But no, I mean, I found that a little bit. It was Stevie Norman on the wing. And then when I realized you called your book Willie Morgan on the wing. It was like, oh my goodness, how weird is this? But played with Bobby Moore. I remember warming up. He was on my team. Sadly, I got sort of subbed a little early because there was a few people sort of in revolution, and they should have just let Laurie McMenemy was he was kind of manager, and he was a wonderful human being. My whole football experience, I can't tell you how lucky I've been to because of Spandau, to be able to meet with people that I was I'm a fan person, I don't see a problem with going, you know what, you meant so much to me, thank you so much for that. I have no problem with
Hugo was a great guy,
I'll
Steve.
go a little bit. Yeah, what a lovely man. He took me around the stadium. This is Wembley, and this is before we went off and everything on this charity match. And they're all shouting out, all the burger sellers, all right, love. Hey, Laurie, all right, all the way around to get the other side. It was, you could tell that the man was well respected. And probably, and still is, of course. So well, anyway, I played with him and I scored a goal there. And Gaza, and that's been a wonderful experience for me. But I guess going back to the music, if you was to pin me down, I've always been an obsessive of Stevie Wonder in the 70s. There is a possibility, doubt it, but if there ever is, then great. I played with Iggy Pop a couple of years ago. That was a box that was massively ticked off for me, and I guess who's no longer around now, Prince, really, because he was the all consummate artist. It was the look, it was everything about him. I love that. Kate Bush is another one. Could be her. It's about the dance, theatre, arts, the way it looks, the way it sounds, paint a picture as for how it sounds, and then also make some music as to how it looks, and that integration. I love that. Yeah.
The next question that has come in is an interesting one. It's from Paula, who's a massive fan of you, Steve.
Paula Mazzian!
She's from Italy. As soon as you were announced as coming on the show, she was delighted. And the question she's got is actually quite unique because she wants you to
know what it is
Italy as well.
I know what it is. I've seen it in a Twitter feed that she did. And I hate being pinned down. And if there's any sort of Italian team which she's asking me, she said, are there any other teams that you watch, and especially in Italy? And I'm very much one of those. I don't like to have to choose anything, because then you alienate the other side. That's why I like Arsenal a little bit, I guess.
Sitting on the fence.
Do you know what I mean? I'm a football fan.
Name a team. I'm going to name one.
All right. I don't know about the team, but I mean, for me, Paolo Di Canio, I met him. I've seen him. He's a sort of pal on and off. We don't see each other, especially not now with lockdown. But, I was so looking forward to doing a five-a-side football thing with him. She wants me to say Inter. So, but how can you say Inter when you got like Roma, you know what I mean? And it's fairly tricky. I think Inter will have to edge it for hers. If there's another team, it's tricky. It's got to be Brighton, because that's where I'm hailing from. And I always do that. It's my second team now, Brighton. I've got to go with that, haven't I? I'm done.
Willie, what about yourself?
Italian team. You're not going to like it. I love AC Milan.
AC Milan?
Yeah, well, the friends I have here, the Italian friends, we've got the restaurants up here in Manchester or down
right.
where we are.
John and Vicente.
They were AC Milan. And, they had one of the great players called Riviera, Gianni Riviera. Gianni Riviera. Yeah. He was an inside left. Don't forget, this is back in the old days, Steve, the 5 forwards.
Yeah.
And he was an inside left, and he was the golden boy of Italian football. And he played for AC, and I played against him, and we swapped shirts at the end of the match. I've given that one away as well. I think he's a politician now. He's in the Italian government, Gianni Rivera. So,
yeah. Has he been in there?
Milan, but Inter Milan, yeah, they're okay.
Yeah.
The next one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
The next one we've got is from Otterman. Now, Steve, if you've listened to the show, you'll know that the Otterman likes to sometimes ask some questions that touch on interesting moments. He's got one for you first, Willie. What is your favourite memory of Sean Connery, as I know you golfed together?
Favourite memory of Sean? We went for dinner when he lived in San Pedro. We went round for dinner. I was over there. We were over there staying at San Roque, and he was playing up at San Roque, and we all went back to his house at night. We were all rather drunk by the time we got there. And when we arrived, he was called Michael. I can't tell you his second name. He was about 6'6", and he was ever so plummy. Hey, and yes, my man, and who invited you here? And we just got there. And I was there with Peter Collins, my pal, Howard Keel was with us, and Jim Hughes, the four of us. Anyway, and I said, oh, we were just passing, and we saw that there was a party, and we thought we'd just call in and have a few drinks. And then he said, you're a bounder. You're a bounder. You're an imposter. So Sean stood about 2 or 3 feet. And he said, Sean, we have a bounder here, an imposter. Sean said, what are you talking about? He said, they've gate crashed. And Sean said, do you know what you're talking to, you idiot? So he said, what do you mean? He said, get on your knees and kiss his feet. And he said, this is, so Sean said, do you know who this man is? This is Willie Morgan. Oh, of course. And he had no idea who I was. Not at all. And that was my memory from Sean. We started laughing, you know. Laughing. I said, geez, you got some funny guess here, pal. And he said, well, you know, what do you do? Oh, you live in Marbella.
Yeah. Very, very, very sort of shielded from the world. No, not him. I'm the Michael I was referring to.
I'm just, yeah, he's like anybody. You know, what people see is the image. They see James Bond. He's just Sean Connery, or Thomas. His real name was Thomas. You know that from yourself and myself. Yeah. Enjoy the publicity. Well, believe it. And he didn't believe it. You don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Well, I mean, it's just the sort of things that I get are really, I don't think when I go out, because 9 times out of 10, I do not get recognised. I'll be honest. It's only when you're, I guess, in certain situations, like, you know, with the rest of the band, for example. But, you know, I mean, even my someone said to me recently, she said, she was my cleaner, actually, still is. And she said, she said, what was it you do there? I said, well, I never tell people. I never tell people, because it changes it. It will change it. Once you mention the magic words of Spandau Ballet, they react differently towards you, and all these other things come in, and then all of a sudden there's a smile on their face. But other times you get recognized. I just love that. I find it fascinating. But it was funny when she said, my cleaner, she said, didn't you used to be famous? You could at least have lied a little bit. You know? Do you want this job? Of course, because you know, it's all very well getting lifted by people that do recognize you, and that's nice. And I wouldn't want it all the time. I hate it. I mean, I don't know how, for example, Martin Kemp in my band or anyone that's a national treasure can deal with that. You lose so much of your privacy, and I go everywhere on a tube, bus, whatever. Not anymore, of course, but you know, I don't have that. So I never think that I'm being recognized ever. It's only I see it out of the corner of my eye. And then half the time it's because I've got a growth and I've got my glasses and I look like Jurgen Klopp. And I see them looking at me, grinning, and I'm thinking, is it me or is it Jurgen?
Yeah. Okay, Callum.
Otterman's got the question. Otterman's got the question for you, Steve. Feel free to completely swerve this question.
What was it again?
Otterman is asking, if you bumped into Tony Hadley in a lift, would you talk to him or would you ignore each other?
See, he's a bit out of touch. Ottoman is a little out of touch. I mean, us lot in Spandau, we fall out massively, but you know, I mean, we're not working together. Let's just put that there. We're not working together, and we've kind of like, we're all done in that respect. But there is respect. There always got to be respect. So going forward, you know, I personally, I'm really happy with what we've done in the past. And, you know, I'm not saying never say never to all the fans that might be upset. And I understand that. And me too, you know, it would be horrible to think that we'd never give it a go before we pop our clogs. You know, someone's going to pop them sooner or later, by the way. So if we're going to do it, maybe do it sooner rather than later, but I doubt it. We just don't all gel at certain times, you know. We get on each other's nerves, if I'm honest, sometimes, you know, that's the honest of it. But, and we all fall out. Tony and I, you know, we've fallen out, but what it really runs through us, you know. We were talking about recently departed Willie. You know my story. Lost my sister a couple of years ago. Lost my mother 2 months ago. And like Tony, his mum is like my mum's best friend, or they were. And so at the beginning of this year, you know, who's on the phone? Tone. You know, and so we do that. We kind of like, when really important things, when push comes to shove, there's the test of friendship. And like me and Tony are like that. He was going to be a pallbearer. He was at the funeral 2 months ago, but you couldn't do it anymore because of COVID. So, you know, do you want to go away and have a word with your man and tell him to come up with something, tell him to do his own work?
Absolutely. Otterman is always asking us questions like this on the show, especially for Willie. Last question for each of you. We're approaching the end of this wee segment here. Very, very quickly, Willie. Favourite Johnny Mathis track?
Oh my goodness. There's so many. 12th of Never. If I had to pick one out of all of them, the 12th of Never. It was the only one I'd ever heard of when I first met John. I knew he'd say 12th of Never. I didn't know any of the other ones. I knew all of them. But
yeah. Like, you know, all of Spandau Ballet's tunes now, Willie. It's what happens, isn't it?
Steve, I've learned.
He knows Golden True.
So, but you know, you're talking about Tony Hadley, just quickly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very good friends with Brian Johnson. You know, Brian from ACDC.
Oh, yeah, so I think you're going to say Brian Bennett. We can't let this go without bringing up Brian Bennett. Sorry.
If you're watching Bennett, hey, where are you and how you doing? The golf all right. But, you know, Brian Johnson, same thing. They had all split up, ACDC. Didn't speak to each other. They hated each other.
Yeah.
And they got back together, I mean, a few years ago now, and I mean, they just took off again. And they had different separate dressing rooms. I used to go into Brian's dressing room, and the brothers had a different dressing room, whatever they were. But they worked on stage. On stage, you would never know. They were fantastic, I must admit. And again, I didn't know a bloody song that they sang. I hadn't a bloody... When I first met Brian, I said, "What do you
really do?"
Yeah. I said, "Oh, is it all right?" I said, "You do all right?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "We're not together at the moment. So what they call ACDC?" I said, "Oh, okay." I'd never heard of them. You know, I don't know. I live in a very quiet life, Steve, as you know.
But so, do you know what? Yes, you do, Willie. But that's what I think you'll find. A lot of artists would be jealous of that. It really is a sanctuary where you are, and even I mean, I'm not talking about where you are physically in your kitchen there, and but physically where you are in yourself. You know that because you don't know too much about the artist, and I couldn't tell you. You know, you didn't even know Golden True until you Googled it today, probably. And that's great. That's the way you are, and I love you for it, really. I mean, that don't change with that, because once you know too much, it does unsettle things a little bit. You know what I mean? So it is. There's nothing to be ashamed of. You're honest. You say things from your heart. And that's what it's all about.
Well,
Steve,
not
your favourite Mathis track?
Well, I mean, Willie and I have actually, we spent an afternoon and an evening just dissecting how great the man is. Do you remember back last New Year's, wasn't it? I think it was. And I have to say, because my mum passed a couple of months ago, her tune, one of her tunes was "Chances Are," and like, you know, even thinking about it now, I've got to be a little bit careful. Hey, don't go there. Yeah, it's very sad, but it's got to be that one. The man's voice, though, is you know, it's just, as we dissected it, Willie. I mean, as a musician,